Eminence and Shadow Season 1 complete recap. Let's get into it. The season begins by introducing a famous actress and student who hates Minoru Kageno because he doesn't acknowledge her. Then after school, she is kidnapped, but is saved by Kageno disguised as a masked vigilante. However, a few days later, he is hit by a truck and killed. In a flashback, Kageno explains that he always wanted to become a secret mastermind, manipulating society from the shadows. So he trained brutally until he reached the limits of his human body. To surpass that, he would need magic. Luckily enough, Kageno finds himself reborn in an alternate world with magical powers. Here, he is Sid, the son of some minor nobles. Like his old life, Sid trains in secret and resumes his vigilante lifestyle, but becomes OP. One day, Sid discovers a cursed blob and manages to cure it, reverting it to its true form, an elven girl, whom he calls Alpha. For his own amusement, Sid poses as the Eminence in Shadow, convincing Alpha she is a descendant of ancient heroes who defeated a demon called Diablos, whom a cult is seeking to resurrect. Believing his story, Alpha agrees to form a group called Shadow Garden to resist the cult. 3 years later, Sid's sister Clare is kidnapped. Alpha has recruited 6 other girls to form the Shadow 7 under Sid's command. The group locates Clare and they save her from the cult of Diablos. Sid thinks the girls are merely role-playing with him, but the cult actually exists. Afterwards, the Shadow 7 split up to hunt the cult all over the world. Sid then enrolls at Midgar Academy, where he takes on his quest to be the best NPC. After losing a bet, he's forced to offer a fake love confession to the princess, Alexia. Uninterested, Sid does a cringy confession, but Alexia agrees to be his girlfriend. Turns out she was just using him to get back at her arranged partner, Xenon. Sid agrees to play along in exchange for money. Eventually, he pisses Alexia off, and she ends things. The next day, Xenon reveals that Alexia has disappeared, and Sid is arrested. Now locked in a cell next to a mutated girl, Alexia has her blood stolen by a cult scientist, saying it contains demon DNA. Sid is tortured by knights, but he plays along as an NPC. When he is released, Alpha reappears stating that Shadow Garden has grown to a large organization. They then look for Alexia. The cult scientist desperately injects Alexia's blood into the mutant girl, turning her into a demon. While escaping, Alexia encounters Xenon, who reveals he's a member of the cult. Sid then intervenes as Shadow. On the streets, Alpha defeats the rampaging demon in one fell swoop. Knowing he is outmatched by Shadow, Xenon swallows pills that turn him demonic, but Sid demolishes him and saves Alexia. She develops feelings for Sid because he complimented her plain sword style, offering to be his real girlfriend, but he rejects her. She then punishes him. Alpha returns to investigating a group that has been posing as Shadow Garden and committing crimes in its name. The cult leader behind the crimes, Gaunt Knight, reveals they have a powerful relic. Sid meets and gives chocolate to Sherry, a researcher studying the same relic. Sid's friends enroll him to fight at the school festival, where he duels student president Rose, a strong fighter. He feigns injury repeatedly but persists in the fight, determined to show off his NPC moves. The referee eventually declares Rose victor, but she is impressed. Sherry also starts crushing on Sid. While in class, Gaunt Knight erects an anti-magic barrier, allowing the fake Shadow Garden to capture the academy. When Sid's classroom is attacked, he jumps in front of Rose and gets cut down, like a true NPC. But Rose thinks Sid sacrificed himself out of love for her. After, the students are taken to the auditorium, allowing Sid to secretly revive himself. Rex attacks Sherry to retrieve the relic, but Iris's knights help her escape. Sid then follows Sherry, killing terrorists before they get to her. He then reveals himself and she explains that the relic absorbs magic and explodes once full. Sherry has been researching the relic's control unit, hoping to save the academy. Sid then goes to fetch some tools from Sherry's room, running into his subordinate, Nu. He orders her and her fellow shadows not to attack the terrorists until Sherry has the control relic ready. Sherry activates the control, stopping the magic barrier. Sid arrives as Shadow, killing all the terrorists. Sid then finds Gaunt Knight burning Sherry's research and reveals he is Ruslan, her adoptive father. Turns out he killed Sherry's mother and used Sherry to complete the relic, which would heal him from an illness. He then powers up and gets folded by Shadow, with Sherry watching. In the aftermath, Shadow Garden is framed as a terrorist organization. Not knowing the truth about her adoptive father, Sherry sets off on a revenge arc. Sid is then contacted by Alpha, who requests he come to Lindworm for the goddess trial. On the train, he encounters Rose, who is madly in love with him. Then, a cultist murders Archbishop Drake of Beatrix's church. Alexia goes to investigate the church, but is turned away by the interim Archbishop Nelson, who is the prime suspect of the murder. At the trial, many fighters fail to manifest a warrior to fight them, but then Sid's name is called. To avoid fighting as himself, he crashes the trial as Shadow, which summons the strongest witch in history, Aurora. Sid easily defeats her and leaves. However, this causes a summoning portal to begin following him around. Sid eventually enters the portal and arrives at the sanctuary. Alpha then appears with Shadow Garden, kidnaps Nelson, and enters the sanctuary, with Alexia and Rose following. Alpha reveals she is a descendant of Olivier, the hero who severed Diablos' left arm long ago. Sid meets Aurora and attempts to free her. Turns out the sanctuary is just a prison of memories, and destroying it is the only way out. Sid and the Shadows learn that experiments on Diablos' arm produce the pills that turn people demonic, and that it produces 12 beads that grant 1 year of immortality to the cult's 12 leaders, the Knights of Round. Nelson then powers up and attacks the group. Meanwhile, Sid reaches the sanctuary's core. The core is sealed behind chains that can only be cut by a nearby magic sword, which he can't use. Nelson summons Olivia to fight for him, but the Shadows steal the sanctuary's research and abruptly teleport out with Alexia and Rose. Nelson then orders Olivia to kill Sid, who is still there. They duel, but Sid sets off his atomic bomb spell, destroying Nelson and the sanctuary core. He then shares a moment with Aurora, who vanishes into nothing. After, Alexia, Rose, and Beta, disguised as a famous author, team up to secretly fight evil. Alpha then discovers that Aurora's true identity is that of the demon Diabolos. Alexa confirms the Beatrix Church is involved with the cult, but politics won't let them investigate further. Iris decides to rise further up the ranks to gain her own political power, planning to win the upcoming Bushin Festival tournament. Rose then discovers she's infected with demonic blood. The festival arrives and Sid plans to shock the crowd by disguising himself as weak and defeating everyone he fights with ease. Using magical slime makeup, he becomes Mundane Man. He then begins his plan by intriguing another fighter named Anna Rose. After, Rose tells Sid that she's been arranged to marry Perv Asshat and forced to give up her sword. Sid advises her to do what she wants. The next morning, it is announced that Rose has stabbed Perv and disappeared. We learn that Rose is hiding in the city's underground ruins. Sid then meets an elf named Beatrix, who is searching for her missing niece, which happens to be Alpha. As Mundane, Sid subtly destroys his opponents Goldie and Quentin, facing Anna Rose next. Alexia and Beta suspect Rose fled after discovering that Perv is secretly a cultist, using magic to brainwash and render her father, the king, an invalid. They then go searching for her. Rose starts suffering from her infected blood, having second thoughts about her escape. Shadow then appears, curing her and granting her power before vanishing. Rose then runs into Alexia and Beta, cutting ties with them. Sid then returns to the arena as Mundane, destroying Anna Rose. Iris must now face Mundane, which could prove difficult. Sid simply wants to defeat her and disappear immediately after his victory. Perv continues to drug the king and plans to have him publicly assassinate Iris and the king of Midgar, causing a war. Iris duels Mundane, but he shortly disarms and defeats her in a single move. Rose then infiltrates the VIP area with help from Shadow Garden and kills her own father, who shows gratitude at being freed from Perv's control. Rose moves to kill herself, but Mundane stops her, shedding his disguise to reveal he is Shadow. Realizing she can't die yet, Rose escapes. Beatrix, having longed to fight Mundane, attacks Shadow. Elsewhere, Rose meets Alpha and joins Shadow Garden. Back at the arena, Iris joins Beatrix in fighting Shadow, destroying the city. Shadow humbles them, then flexes his atomic, city-obliterating attack, terrifying both of them, but vanishes at the last second before its detonation. Alpha guides Rose into the monster-infested mountain near Sid's childhood village, revealing that it contains ruins that are now Shadow Garden's new secret base of operations. Rose then begins her training to become a true Shadow. The season ends with Sid playing the Moonlight Sonata on a stolen piano, hopeful for the adventures to come. Now you should be completely caught up with everything from season 1. Enjoy season 2!